Yeah, man, this is Kevin Christian, and it's Saturday night. I believe it's the 28th. Um, yeah, it's March the 28th, 2020. And, I've got the same situation as I've had for years with gang stalkers doing their thing. The only difference today and every other day is I'm isolated, I'm quarantined, and so is everybody else. And nothing that I would prefer to be doing is available to even do. So I'm stuck. This is the second Saturday night that I've been stuck doing nothing. Um, anyway, these guys, they're not doing nothing. They're doing the usual, and they're giving me a really hard time with their gang stalking tactics, doing all kind of stuff, doing live streams. I caught them about 3 or 4 times in the last hour with the broadcast turned on, and I like to check my meter, and that's how I catch them when it's above mid 40s. It's supposed to be in the mid 40s, but if it's above the mid 40s, then they have a broadcast turned on, and you can see that it's not. It's very stable in the mid 40s, when that's what it should be. Um, but 3 or 4 times I caught them with it on. Um, one good one on video, but I didn't put it out because I ended up saying a little bit of inappropriate stuff because it was pretty frustrating. But anyway, I want to talk about something that is important, and some of the things that you should look out for if you're suspicious that something may be going on. So, especially with the people that you're around, there's certain things that happen with me in my situation in the beginning that I didn't understand, that eventually made a lot of sense later when everything started to transpire into my understanding of the way that things work with all of this. And so once I began to have a better understanding about how it all works and the things that they do and how they do it, then a lot of the things that had previously happened that didn't make much sense, all of a sudden they made perfect sense, and it all just clicked for me. And so one thing that you need to know is that gang stalkers are doing a lot of the things that they do um, secretly, of course, but they're doing everything online. The things that they do when they access stuff about neural monitoring and these type of things, it's they're going online to do these things. So, and I've talked about this many times before, but if you want to try this, you could try this, and um, you're gonna have to learn a little bit, but it's really not that difficult, and a lot of it is it's easy to find information on all of this stuff. But okay, so I'm talking about um, Xcode, which is a software that you can get on I don't know if you could get it on Windows or not, but it's a software that's designed to create applications for iOS and Mac stuff. It's called Xcode, and if you wanted to create apps or programs for the Apple brand, then that's what you would use. Okay, and it's free, and you can get it. I got it on my MacBook. And so there's another one called Android Studio, and Android Studio is for Android development, and you can get that. I got that also on my Mac. So you can get it. They're free, and basically that's exactly what they are. Is they're softwares that are made to for you to design and produce applications or programs for Androids and Apple devices. Okay, so all right, so next step. Once you have these applications up and running, then you'll see that within these applications you can create a virtual device. And what that means is you can actually create, say, a virtual iPhone. So you could create a virtual iPhone 11, and you could have that virtual iPhone 11 and set it up the way you want to. It doesn't physically exist. It's a software, okay? But you could say you could load Facebook and Instagram and YouTube on this virtual iPhone, and at that point you can export your iPhone as a file, and then you can host it somewhere. Now the intention is that if I'm developing an application on Xcode for an iPhone, for iOS, then instead of risking my actual iPhone to test this software that's just in the development, in the beta stages, it could be hazardous to my systems, and it may cause who knows what. So the idea is you test it on a little bug flying. You test it on a virtual device. So that's what the purpose of a virtual device is supposed to be. But obviously sometimes you can use things for other purposes than they were originally designed for. So if you wanted to load a bunch of stuff onto your virtual iPhone, including remote neural monitoring, all right, and host that online somewhere, then you got a phone, a physical phone. You carry it around with you, and there's nothing about any kind of gang stalking or remote neural monitoring or anything about EMF broadcast, or none of that stuff is on your phone. All right, and this is a smart thing that they do, and it's a safe way to do all of this stuff to some degree. Okay, so what I noticed, it was somebody that I knew, all right, and I knew them very well, and they started to associate with people that had access to neural monitoring. So they were basically starting to become a gang stalker. So they were like a gang stalker in training, all right? But I didn't know this at the time, and I was not being targeted yet at the time. So what all of a sudden happened was this person was all of a sudden this person was an Android developer, had an Android developer account, and was working actively on developing a virtual Android, okay, with whatever they wanted to have on it, okay? And then what I noticed after that was that this person started to have a hosting account, a web hosting account. Now, I've had a web hosting account because for a little while I had a website that I created, and I had it up for I guess for a year, and then I didn't renew it because I never really got into it or even finished the website completely. So I didn't renew it, but so I know how a hosting account works. And so basically this person, they didn't have a website. They didn't have anything like that, and they were never into this kind of thing before. Excuse me. Then all of a sudden, this person was an Android developer and had a hosting account. Okay, now it was 2 or 3 years later that I realized why. Okay, when I started to get gang stalked and everything started happening, and then once I figured out what was going on, then I realized why this person had a hosting account, because I understood how it worked now, and I knew at that point that they had joined up with a bunch of people that were gang stalkers. So that's what happened. Another thing that used to happen was somebody else I knew that was a gang stalker, that I didn't know they were a gang stalker, but later on things started to happen and it all made sense. So this person would call me, right? But it would come up some other number. But when I answered, I'd be like, what phone are you calling from? But they would say, it's my phone. I'd be like, well, why is it coming up with this number? So they try to act like they didn't know what I was talking about. So I went around this person and I said, what's up with this number? And they're like, I don't know, it's something. So I called the number and their phone rang. No, it was not their phone number. Okay, what it was the virtual device that was linked to their phone. Okay, so you know, I have a lot of evidence of these things happening, but those are some things that you want to look out for. Is somebody that all of a sudden becomes a developer, right? They're not really a developer. It's not like they're really a hacker, but they learn a little bit about this stuff, and then other people that are involved with gang stalking help them out with, you know, pre-written coding and like cut and paste this here and this and that, and this is how you do it, because none of us want each other to get caught. This is bad news if we start to get caught gang stalking, and and they'll go to any links to keep from being caught, including any links to get rid of you if you start to be a threat to what they got going on with gang stalking and all of this. So but look out for people that got weird numbers calling you, and it's them on their phone. Look out for people that all of a sudden get developer accounts and hosting accounts. The hosting accounts is important, and then because they have to have one to host their virtual Android, right? Their virtual whatever they've made, a virtual device that they've made in Xcode or Android Studio, and then they can log into that with their phone. All right, and then they're on like a completely different phone. It has a new number. They can have all their gang stalking stuff on there, remote neural monitoring stuff. And as soon as they want to be done, they just log out and boom, it's not on their physical phone. But there's a paper trail, okay, because they have to have these accounts. And even if they got to pay for them with Bitcoins or whatever, there's some record of them having these accounts, these hosting accounts, these developer accounts. And at some point, that's another part of my agenda, is to push for warrants enough to enough suspicion to get warrants to look into that. Look into, do they have a hosting account? And if you do, why? And what have you been doing with it? And what's hosted there? Right? Because this is important. And this is where we're going to find everything that they've been doing to us. Right? They might try to get rid of it or whatever, but still, the records of them having these accounts exist. Right? So you can't have a free hosting account. There might be a such thing as free hosting, but at some point, there's some way to trace it back to these people that have become gang stalkers. So those are just some things to look out for. My device is about to die, so I'm going to talk to y'all more about all of this stuff later. This is Kevin Christian. Have a safe Saturday night. If you know something that's going on, hit me up.